Today on Big Brother Rewind, power shifts again when Shane becomes the new HOH. Could Shane make the same mistakes as Willie? Shane nominates two of Janelle's players, Ashley and Joe. And will anyone be able to beat Shane during the POV comp? All this and more on this week's Big Brother Rewind.
Welcome, everybody, to another Big Brother Rewind. I'm Andrew Zarian, and today we have a special guest with us. Hey, Jess. Jess is not the special guest.
I'm not the special guest. I'm here all the time. This isn't
How you
very
doing?
special. I'm doing great.
What did you think of this week?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
A little overwhelming.
It's not just that it's a little overwhelming. We're finally learning a lot more about the characters. They're all kind of coming out now. So
Yeah.
we're learning more about the people that are on, you know.
Our special guest today, last week we had Suncast on, but Suncast is not here. But here's another guy that has an internet name, but today he said he's not going to be like Suncast. He's going to go by his real name. Josh Coleman, infamously known as Colm, right? Everybody calls you that.
Infamously, yeah.
Infamously.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
That's how I know you. I thought you were one of the guys that doesn't go by your real name.
No, I mean, for a while there, yes, but lately it's been changed. I'm letting my name out there. You know, I'm exploring new levels.
New levels of internet fame.
Exactly. There you go.
Josh does a great show on T4show.com with Michael Manna. They do everything from technology to gaming. It's on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. East. You can check it out at T4show.com, or you can follow him at Culmination on Twitter. We're also going to have links in our show notes to his site. So this week on Big Brother, you're a Big Brother fan. I didn't know that about you, actually. I'm very surprised that you're a Big Brother fan.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm huge. Every year we're getting the feeds. I have a computer just dedicated to running those feeds. So at any time I can just flip it on and just sit there and watch. There are some nights where I will maybe stay up till 2, 3 a.m. just getting sucked in. So, yeah.
Have you,
huge.
you've been a fan since the beginning, or you came in later on?
Definitely in the beginning. Then I sort of like slacked off for a little bit. So 1, 2, and 3, I was there. Then 4, 5, 6, 7, I was sort of like not there. And then since 8, I've been unstoppable.
Religious.
Like and I got my wife involved too now. So she's now a huge fan.
Oh, so you got her into it.
Yes.
Oh, see, it was the opposite for us. You were a fan.
Yes, I was a total fan, and then I got Andrew into it. But I used to watch back in the days when they would have, you were on PB&J.
Yes.
And then the whole family would come, my grandparents, my mom, my son, everybody. We would sit down whenever Big Brother was on. And back then, it was on like every day. It wasn't just 3 days a week. It was all the time.
How was it when you would go, when they would have nominations, you would just be up and there's no way to like win a POV to get off?
Right.
What was that?
It was there was no way to get off of the block.
Oh,
we were on the
yeah.
block.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we would sit and have like PB&J with them. Like whoever was on, we would have like peanut butter and jelly, because it made you crave peanut butter and jelly, because you know,
True.
people don't ever eat that anymore when you're
And
like,
that
past
sucks.
the
Like,
age
you
of
know you're
12.
going home. Like, there's no
Well,
chance. Like, if
It
you're
was
like
more about like,
there's no hope in like winning.
but there was like a lot more politician work.
Yeah,
like
more
you had
deals
to do
now.
social
Politicking.
game, and you know, yeah, it was good. It was really good.
So this week, where do you want to pick up, Jess? People have been saying, let Jessica do the rundown. I'm just going to say who, what is, and we'll do the rundown. Right now, actually, no.
Well, we have to
do the
start
rundown.
from
Do the
where we
rundown.
left
yeah,
off
do the
last.
rundown.
All right, so
It
now
was
we know
it was,
it was elimination.
yeah.
And, well, wait a minute. Were we there when Willie had his breakdown? Or did that happen after the last show?
We spoke about it.
We spoke about that?
You did talk about his arrest.
No.
No.
His arrest.
Go ahead.
Because right after this whole thing goes down, he ends up getting arrested for DUI. He's like a man on a mission to just be...
Yeah, he's self-destructed.
He's so...
Yeah.
self-destructed in front
Do you
of
think it's the
cameras.
house? I mean, we've said this
No.
before. You think it's just insane
think he's
people
crazy.
going insane?
I think it's his brother too.
Yeah, his brothers.
Yeah.
Well, that family is just out of control. There's apparently like a YouTube reality show that the nephew does, and they're all out of their minds.
Yeah, they're all crazy. None of them are really like well put together human beings.
They're gonna get a show on TLC. Like it's just a matter of time.
I can't wait for that.
I could imagine that. All right, so
Willie has
a breakdown, gets kicked out of the house, then gets like kicked out of life because he just got a DUI, and now we're back in the house, and Frank wins head of household.
We went through that.
All right, now JoJo goes to Frank and begs for his forgiveness and says
because JoJo's on the block.
Yes,
Yeah.
JoJo's on the block. No, but before she even gets on the block, she goes to
And says like,
goes
hey,
to
listen,
Frank
let's.
and says, yeah, please, I had to side with my team last week. I didn't want to really vote you out, and Frank says, well, I gave you that chance. I said to you, keep me in and I'll keep you safe, and you went against me. And so Frank nominates Shane and JoJo.
Which was very smart.
Yeah.
You think that was a?
It was.
Well, who else is he gonna do? I mean,
Well, Shane's a huge competitor.
Shane and Joe. Yeah, but I don't
Shane's out of control.
see. I don't think the picks that he had, and last week we touched on this, but let's analyze. I don't think the picks that he had anything to do with strategy. I think what he was doing was attacking the people that were aligned with Willie. Shane, I could understand. JoJo, I think he was just pissed off that JoJo was, aligned
Part
with
of that team.
Willie. Yeah.
Well, it also saved anybody else in the house from being angry with him.
True.
Yeah.
Nobody in the house is going to blame him for putting up JoJo and Shane because of Willie. Everyone hated Willie. Willie was the villain. And if you sided on the side of the house and sided against Willie by putting up his two, friends, then it was totally okay. It was like a free buy that no one would get angry with him. Also, he had to be really careful with who he nominated because, again, he was staying away from Janelle's people, and he's not going to put up his own people. So he didn't have many choices.
Okay, so Frank put them up. Voting, it's time to vote.
Right.
Shane, actually, we went over this last week. Shane won POV once again, took himself off.
Well, I thought it was interesting that during the nomination ceremony, JoJo goes into this whole thing about how, it's a good thing she's got self-control because nobody gave her any hugs when she went up.
Well,
it's like, whoa, what? You want hugs? You're complaining because nobody gave you hugs?
well, they're all delusional. I mean, Josh, if you were to send Ashley who was it? Ashley and Danielle, who would you have sent home?
Wow. I guess I would send Danielle because I feel like she's more of a threat than Ashley.
No, I'm sorry, not Ashley. Why did I say JoJo and Danielle?
Oh, JoJo. Oh,
Yeah.
send home Danielle because
Danielle.
in my opinion, I watched, of course, all those pre-interviews that they had of all the people. And it seemed like JoJo didn't even really watch the show at all, like before she got on it.
Really?
Yeah, and now I'm finding out though that Danielle didn't really even watch the show before she got on.
So how did they get picked? I don't understand. Like, what was it? Like, someone was like, "Hey, you should try for Big Brother," and they're like, "Okay."
I think a lot of times, the producers are producers of other shows, and so when you get picked for one,
Yeah. Okay.
you can put like your video in for Survivor and then end up getting chosen for Big Brother. Like, hey, you didn't get picked,
Yeah,
but
interesting.
kind of how like Bethany Frankel, she was a finalist in
Oh, that's right.
the Apprentice, like to be an apprentice, like in the actual Donald Trump version. She applied for that. She made it as an alternate, never made it into the actual show.
And they took her for.
They called her back a second time, and she still didn't make it in. And then they put her on the other one,
Martha Stewart.
the Martha Stewart
Yeah.
one, and she became a finalist in that. She was like the breakout star of that. So I think a lot of times it doesn't even have anything to do with what show you're applying for.
Yeah,
I
they
think
just say.
they
Well, I
have
know
videos.
when Evil Dick was on with us
Yeah.
last season, he pretty much said that he had applied from like Big Brother 3. And every year there were, they all wanted a specific character. So the year before he was supposed to be on, or 2 years before, there was another character that was very similar to him. So they went over him, and he finally told the producers, "Listen, if you're not going to pick me for this one, I'm not going to do it." And they ended up putting him in the house, and
Yeah.
he was a big star. But I guess that's how it works with that. But Danielle, in my opinion, is absolutely useless.
Well, I thought she was absolutely useless until this week.
I would, as a viewer, And you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I would like to see JoJo in the house, and I'm actually disappointed she got eliminated because she's a lunatic.
Yes.
And I know that she'll start problems with certain things. Like, it'll be interesting to watch. We don't want another Big Brother 12.
Right.
True.
Well, there's a couple things about JoJo. One, does anybody know if her neck is pierced?
Oh, yes. She has a stud that has like almost like, have you ever seen those I forget what they're called, like monkey hooks or whatever? They have like it goes in her neck and then sort of like is held there.
Yeah, it's really gross.
Yes.
Why would you do that to yourself?
She's delusional.
She's
and
weird.
crazy.
She's just so strange. Well, anyway.
She's a twin too.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, see, now that would have been interesting.
Yeah,
do you remember the season when they had the twins play?
Yes.
That was an interesting twist. Yeah. I like that one.
But we were talking about how the players who do watch the show, but that's why and I watched your show last week is what Ian, you guys are really high up on Ian. He is so deadly because he probably knows the most about the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so did Adam. Adam was a big fan of the show last season, and he made it pretty far. But I think with Ian...
I think Ian's going to go much further.
Ian is going to go far because I think nobody sees him as a threat because he can't win a competition.
Right.
You look at Shane, and Shane is on everybody's hit list.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
how weird is it that we haven't had an endurance comp yet? I think it's crazy that we haven't had one yet.
Do you think it's because of all the dropouts early?
You might be right.
And they're holding off to do an endurance competition?
It could be one that has to do with when the helpers, what are they called? The veterans. When
they enter in.
When they enter into the game. But what are they called right now? The
coaches.
Yeah. I don't know why I couldn't think of that
word. So JoJo goes home.
All right, so JoJo goes home.
Pretty much because she was friends with Willie and Frank was being vindictive and took it out on her.
Right. Well, Boogie tells Shane, all right, listen, you put up Shane, you put up JoJo, but instead of, voicing your opinions on who you think should go home, you should really try to embrace the nominations.
Who said this?
This is Boogie.
Telling
Boogie's his advice to Shane, to Frank.
Frank, yeah.
He says, you should embrace the nominations. So instead, make this work for you. Go to Shane, try to make a side deal. And that's exactly what they did. So
and they have a final 2 deal.
They have a final 2 deal.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they actually did, because when you watch the tape really carefully, Shane says, I would even go to a final 2 with you. But you never hear Frank and Boogie say, okay, let's do a final 2.
Let's do a deal. Yeah.
But you do hear that they're going to make a deal where, at least for the next couple of weeks,
they'll look after
they're going to work
other.
on each other.
And that's a strong alliance.
Right.
Frank and Shane is a very strong alliance.
Right.
Shane wins the competition, the HOH comp, which was the hockey game.
No, it was the Fiesta.
The Fiesta was the HOH?
Yeah, the chips in the bowls.
Yes.
It was the
Ian almost won.
Ian almost won, but and Shane did really, really well because he didn't even check his answers. He was smart enough to know that Ian was going to be done very quickly, so he just...
You know what I'm surprised at that a lot of these teams aren't doing, and maybe that's because there's only one really strong player from every team. Well, Dan's team, nobody's strong. It's useless, but... Janelle is strong.
Dan's team. It's
Frank,
only Danielle.
It's only
really
Danielle, so there's no team. But like every team has a strong player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that we haven't seen them strategically throw games. Like they haven't said like I'm a big. My whole thing is the game got screwed up when Brittany crowned Willie the HOH. That should have never happened. It should have been JoJo because then you have 2 of your strong players competing the following week. Right. Since it's a team game, why not think about the following week and try to pass it off to the weak ones as much as you can?
Right.
To keep your strong players in the game.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think, I don't know, did you guys talk about this? Of all the 4 coaches, I think Brittany is probably the worst one in my opinion.
She's definitely the underdog.
And she had the strongest team.
And you see
exactly.
When JoJo gets eliminated, she doesn't really talk very highly of Brittany, but she does say that she's going to vote for Brittany. She's going to, be on Brittany's side because Brittany's the underdog and everybody loves an underdog story.
True.
So I think that I really do believe in that. And I think that this year they're not going to have Dan win because Dan already won. I think that it's going to be either Mike, Janelle, or Brittany, but I really think it's got to go to Brittany for some reason. I feel like she was so wronged in the last season.
Oh, you think that when they enter the game, you think Brittany's going to have...
I think Brittany's going to go really, really far, if not win. Or she's going to win some sort of sum of money because she's associated with the winner.
Yeah. Brittany has absolutely no control of her team.
No.
I mean, it's like...
Again,
she's the worst.
it's...
Shane.
Team, it's just Shane.
Shane, yeah.
It's just Shane.
Yeah.
And I knew that they were going to vote out JoJo because Dan needed to stay in the game. They couldn't get rid of the coaches yet. They needed to keep the coaches in the game. And Danielle, I'm not sure if Danielle.
But you're
did
going
this
on the.
out of
Are you going based on the
strategy?
theory that Big Brother's controlling the game?
No, but I think that things kind of
Fall into place.
place the way that they're supposed to fall into place, and whatever's best for CBS. I think that it just fate happens that way. And Danielle actually ends up. I'm not quite sure if Danielle fell into this or if she was actually quite brilliant in her strategic planning, that she goes to Janelle and she goes to Ashley and she starts like doing pillow talk and playing with them and ha 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 over Shane because Shane starts flirting with JoJo.
Yeah.
And she makes this comment about, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and then goes to Janelle and Ashley and starts talking badly about JoJo, and that's Janelle's spot. Janelle finds out about this possible showmance, nips it in the butt, and kicks out JoJo. Now, the moment JoJo leaves the house, Danielle is in Shane's bed.
Yeah, bizarre,
So
right?
I'm not sure if it was because Danielle is actually that smart,
Or you think it just fell into
or
place?
she was just really kind of jealous of the whole situation, fell into it, and then it really worked out.
Josh,
for
what do you
her.
think?
Well, do you guys think that Shane and Danielle are each using each other, or there's actually interest? I haven't figured that part out because
I feel
you
like
hear
Shane
talk about her sometimes to other people, and this comes from the feeds, not from what we see on the show. The CBS is showing that this is a budding showmance, but on the feeds you hear Shane basically being like, she's watching me eat, she's watching me sleep, she won't leave me alone. But then there are times when they're just alone and they seem to be getting along really well. So I don't know who's playing who there, and it's really confusing to me.
Yeah, it's obvious that she's way more into him because there was an incident that happened. They had a big party, the underwear party.
Oh, right.
They haven't aired that yet, and we're going to talk about it afterwards. But they apparently there's something happened between them, but he's ignoring her at this point in the house. So I think I don't necessarily. You know what it is? I think he wants to win in the worst way, and he probably feels that if he teams up with her, she's going to drag him down. Jordan was really lucky.
Well, Jordan was also it's funny that you bring up Jordan, because I think that what they tried to do was they brought in that like sweet hospitality charm with Danielle, but they brought in the dumb southernness with Ashley, and they were trying to. The combination of them two was going to be like a poor man's Jordan. Yeah. Like they can't actually get Jordan because it would be ridiculous to put her back in the house. And Jordan is such a great character. You love Jordan. You root for Jordan. You want Jordan.
You
to
don't
do
feel
really
that with
well.
these ones.
You don't feel it with these. And I mean, Danielle's got the pretty thing, and Ashley's got that southern dumb thing going. But just poor man's Jordan.
Real, or is that an act?
I think Ashley watches she goes to the morgue and just watches dead bodies.
Well,
I really feel like she is just whacked out of her skull.
She is the
she
funniest
skins cats when she's off. Like when she goes home, she just goes home and skins cats.
Well, she starts to talk about what her perfect man would be, and it's the best scene because she's sitting in the diary room and she's like, I just want him to be good and like to eat and like food and snacks and Monopoly. It's like, what? What?
I like a man that'll eat Monopoly.
Yeah, but then she gets out of the diary room, and then it's like, this is truly what she feels, because she repeats pretty much verbatim what she just says in the diary room. She repeats it again for other people to hear about how she's looking for a man that is good and likes food and likes snacks and will play Monopoly. And Jan goes, I think that's not reaching too far. I think you could probably find that.
I think that's 95% of the men in the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
Josh,
ridiculous.
wasn't she involved in some weird S&M movie?
Oh,
I have not heard this.
She was involved in some movie and she's being sued for $800,000 by an ex-boyfriend.
Oh, right. You were mentioning that. Are you sure it wasn't Will? Because they look the same.
Uh,
To me, they look identical.
No,
I
no,
think
yeah,
that
they
it
do.
was. I think that was.
Totally
I think that's going to be the big twist. I really do.
I'm trying to see what that deal was. What?
Okay, so I also.
Oh, here it is. It
I
was in the
wanna
New York
br-
Post. Big Brother contestant Ashley ripped me off on the canceled film, says the ex-boyfriend. I don't know what this means. S&M King, Anthony Marini,
Okay.
is suing an ex-flame, Ashley, in Manhattan Supreme Court for $820,000. Ashley is a thief. Marini, which is 56, who in the 1990s ran The Vault, a notorious bondage den in the meatpack. Oh my God, yeah, The Vault. It was all over the news. Casted a 26-year-old blonde in his first featured film in 2010. Okay, so apparently something. I don't know if it was an S&M film, but he's the S&M king apparently in New York.
All right. Well, Ashley's
bizarre.
sitting in the diary room talking about she wants a man that can eat. And then Danielle is throwing herself a pity party for one, crying into the cameras.
Who's this?
Danielle, before she thought that she was going to get voted out.
Yeah.
Dan tells her like she's on her own. He's not going to help her. And this is his big like coaching move. And she goes and throws herself the biggest pity party. And she's just crying into the camera. I have nobody and nobody loves me. And she's got like mascara coming down the face. And it's like a whole dramatic thing.
Did she have her
But-
makeup on? Because that girl
Yeah.
needs to keep it on.
Oh, I know.
Oh, really? You don't think
Oh.
she has a natural beauty?
No. She needs to keep that makeup on.
Yeah.
It's like night and day because she pounds so much of it on. Like, I think if she didn't wear that much makeup, you'd be like, oh, she's a pretty girl.
Yeah.
But she puts on so much makeup when she takes it off, it's like a different person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have to bring up the sentence. So when they're talking about men in the bed, Janelle and Ashley, and what was the other girl? It's Danielle. It's Danielle, Ashley, and Janelle.
Okay.
And they're sitting and they're talking. And Ashley says, Shane is like, he's emancipated.
Oh, right. I remember this.
And
What the hell does that mean?
Danielle goes,
From what? His parents?
what? And then
The
she
Emancipation
says,
Proclamation. That's what
he's
she means.
emancipated. That means he's so thin, he's becoming introverted.
What the hell does that mean?
Apparently, it means that he is no longer, under
of
the provisions of his parents, and he's becoming very thin, and that's making him be antisocial. Wow. What I think she meant was that he is like emaciated, maybe,
Yes.
Emaciated.
is
yeah.
what she meant
Yeah.
to say, but she didn't get there. I don't know.
It's like the Emancipation Proclamation of
He's like
1812.
emancipated and introverted and thin.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
So
he-
is she really this stupid? This isn't an act?
No, I really think some of them are really dumb.
Yeah, I do.
Or they're just really naive people. I mean, you can't have. I don't think any of them are really bright I mean, Brittany, I think, is really smart,
Right.
but she's a little. She thinks she's way too smart. Like that's her problem. She thinks she's smarter than everybody else in the house, and I kind of like her for that. I know a lot of people dislike Brittany, but out of all the people in the house right now, if you look at it, like I don't think any of them are really bright except for Ian.
I
Ian
think
is really
Frank
bright.
is sort of smart.
Yeah.
Every time I hear him have conversations
Ian.
with Boogie, it seems like they can talk to each other and work out their strategies, and it seems like he says enough to the other players in the game that when he goes back to Boogie, he like makes those players lead into the conversations that he wants.
Yeah, well, listen, when Psycho Sid's your dad, you got to fall back on something.
It's amazing.
All right.
Isn't
so-
that some great
Has he
fun?
ever told them who his dad is?
He's mentioned that my father. I think on the opening thing, he's like, my father is a former pro wrestler. Like he was like the biggest wrestler in the '90s. Like he said
Really? 'Cause
something
I
like
would
that.
be like asking him so many questions about that, but I've never heard anyone like talk about it.
I don't think any of them are fans.
Wow.
That's probably the
That's
problem.
probably what it is.
Wow.
All right. So we also get to see Joe's new hair. this week.
Oh yes.
Joe seems
right.
to have dyed his hair darker. For some reason, this is what I picked up. I'm not sure if it actually happened, but
You don't think he may have not?
I see huge difference, a huge difference
his hair.
in his hair. His hair's super dark, but not quite the same color from like here to here. And then his little goatee's blonde.
Yes.
It's just
Okay.
all so wrong. And then Julie says to him, during during the live eviction, she's talking to him about the whole thing that happened with Willie, and she says, "So what do you think about it?" And he goes, "If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen."
Oh, because that's cliche, the cooking, the chef is.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where he was going with it, but it made absolutely no sense. And then even Julie was like, "Or the bathroom," because that's where it happened.
Yeah.
Right? But whatever. And then we see nothing of Joe until Shane gets HOH. And the moment Shane gets HOH, we see Joe in the kitchen making him breakfast in bed.
I saw that.
And says, "Oh, Shane, here's your king's breakfast." Like 9 o'clock in the morning. So weird. Whatever. And then we don't see Joe again.
Yeah. So Shane is now HOH. This guy is unstoppable in the house. He's won 1 HOH and 2 POVs up until, right now. I mean, we're going to get into what's happened now, but the guy is an extremely strong competitor. I mean, he's won nearly every event. He's almost won every event. I mean, even the ones that he lost, he was like right there. Unstoppable.
Physical and mental games.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
But what I've noticed in the house the past week, he's starting to crack the last couple days. Starting to slowly crack. So right now he has to decide who's going up on the block. He picks Ashley and Joe.
Right. But he stays true to his promise not to put up Frank, because there is a coaches competition, and in the coaches competition, they cannot do. They learn that you can't. Janelle picks somebody. Janelle wins, and Janelle picks Will to be safe. And because she does that, then now his whole nomination idea goes out the window, and everyone's really pushing for him to put Frank up on the block, and that no one will judge him because Frank put him on the block last week.
Why were they pushing? Do you why
well,
was
because he's the natural choice. But but nobody knows that Frank and Shane now have this deal.
Right.
So he can't put Frank on the block.
So who would be your picks? I mean, Ashley and Joe. It's the right
fine
pick
with me.
Yeah. I mean, that's
it
what I
would
would
have
have
been
done.
Will. Will is interesting because you see that he's a competitor. You don't hear from him much, but he must have really had animosity towards JoJo, because in her little video, he calls her Little Miss Hypocrite.
Yeah. Do you know why, Josh?
I don't know.
I don't know why. I remember that too, though.
But
he has a great social game so
Yeah.
far.
He does, but it seems like it seems almost as though they had a fight, but we didn't see a fight.
He made a comment about her too at the little sushi party they had. That was pretty explicit.
Oh,
I didn't know that. I didn't hear.
When we get
that.
to that, I
Okay.
can.
So he does his nominations. Ashley and Joe are on the block.
yes.
And the coaches comp. Let's talk about the coaches comp.
All right.
So every time you're eliminated, you have to go to a locker and you have to open a locker and you get stuff.
Right.
So
Which is very cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So Janelle won, like you said. Janelle could pick somebody to be safe. Will is a safe one. Brittany.
What was her thinking, you think, with that?
I don't know. Why did?
Because the weirdest thing to me is like Shane gets HOH, right? And they decide, okay, we're not the easy thing is to think you're going to put up Danielle to get Dan immediately out of the game. But no, he decides to go after another team who I guess at the time Brittany and Janelle were not working together. So he decides you got to go after a team that has 3 players. So I guess he goes after Janelle's team. But I didn't really see to me, I would have thought you would have put up Ian and Frank instead.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he
but
can't
like I said,
put up
the final 2. But.
Right. Well, he had made that deal, so he can't put.
He
up
was sticking
Frank.
to it. Yeah.
But I mean, I would have definitely put up Ian.
Yeah.
To put them against each other.
Well, unless his entire
because
plan,
Jen's useless.
unless his plan was that, hey, listen, I've won so many POVs, I could win another one and backdoor Frank.
Yeah.
And I won't see him, and he has no chance of retaliating.
I don't think.
And he'll have extra days to politic against Frank. Frank won't have those extra days to politic to stay in the house. That'll be an advantage in his corner. I mean, that's a very strategic and very thought out plan. That I don't know if he's done that, but that's also an option if he were to win POV.
Right.
So Brittany opens up her locker. She gets to pick who the have-nots are.
Ian nominates himself again.
Genius tactic.
It's
I
so
think,
smart.
far.
It's
Why?
so smart.
Why smart, Josh?
Because you got a guy who will always take that POV. So you're thinking, why should we throw this guy out? Because he's taking that and always going to be a have-not. So only two other people. Well, now is it one or two other now?
Two others. There were two others.
So yeah, you always have that spot. So
Joe's on slop and
Right.
it's Ian, Joe, and who was the third?
Yeah, I couldn't think who the third one is.
I don't remember.
Well,
Maybe it was
so, yeah,
Jen. It was
it's-
someone
it's-
forgettable. Somebody forgettable. Who cares?
yeah, it's probably like Jen.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's useless.
She's absolutely useless. I can't wait for her to leave.
Why isn't anybody just kicking her out? That's the strange thing.
Because she's the floater.
Yeah.
Floaters grab a life vest. She's just, she's going to float her way through this game.
And
And then
she'll
everyone's
win.
going to realize that Jen's there.
Yeah, people don't realize she's part of a very successful all-female metal band. If they
Right.
did, she would have been the first one out. Part of Kitty. Huge band. So Brittany picks the have-nots. Boogie gets 10 grand.
Wow.
And he has to split it with two other people. He initially wanted Frank, and Frank said no.
Smart.
Really smart. That Sid Vicious
Very.
money's coming in.
Very, very smart. He gives $3,000 to Ian, and then Ian starts crying.
Yeah. So
Because he doesn't know what $3,000 looks like because he's a student.
I guess
That's what he says.
because he's never paid his student loans, probably.
Right.
But I mean, I
Dan
just
gets
feel
a sushi party.
yes.
And now I guess we could go into some of the spoilers, right? I think that covers everything.
Yeah.
Are we missing anything?
That brings us up to date. Yeah.
Up to date. Okay. POV competition. Shane wins again. Third POV.
Unbelievable.
He has won everything. This guy he has won 4 competitions.
He's like Janelle.
He's this year's Janelle.
And she notices this now.
Oh, she's saying stuff, huh?
Yeah, on the feed, she's basically like, wow, I see a lot of myself in what Shane's doing. And they've had conversations together. And I think that what we're about to talk about is why things have come the way they have, because she and Shane are sort of creating a bond, which is going to definitely help her when they get into the game.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting, but I'd like to also see possibly like one of the coaches switch out one of their own. We haven't seen that. That's kind of, it's been
a
up
trade?
there. Yeah, that's been up there as an option.
Or an
We haven't
acquisition.
seen it.
I think rather than trade, there should be an acquisition. Where
But then that would knock other players
That'd be
out of
fast.
the,
That'd be interesting.
be interesting. But
Yeah.
I would love to see Janelle like trade Joe or Ashley.
Well, like you could do
For
something
Shane.
like, okay, you know what? POV competition. The team that you knock, the player now enters into the game. So it's an incentive for you to eliminate them so you get the 100 grand, but you're also putting them into the game.
Right.
Like that would be an interesting twist to it.
Are you listening, Big Brother?
So, Josh, when do you think they're going to put the play? When do you think they're going
Next
to put the
week.
coaches in? Next week.
Yeah, because they said
Yeah,
at the
scary.
very
Yeah.
end of this episode, it was like, okay, America, you have the opportunity to change the game as we know it. Please vote yes to put them in and no to not put them in. But of course,
Yeah.
they've already decided that they're going in. They're going
So
in.
now the coaches are going to be in.
Yeah.
It's going to get even more interesting.
I do think this hurts the season, though, in my opinion.
It does.
Yeah. Well,
Because it's
every
like
year
you're
now.
putting 4 of probably the best players. I mean, 2 of them have won the game. Janelle has come close twice, pretty much. And I don't know. Once again, we're seeing veterans come in and they're just going to sweep up the floor. Plus, they've gotten to know all these players. They know how they think. They've been told how to think almost, and now they're just going to come in. It's like almost unfair.
And they get a 4-week advantage.
Yeah, and a 4-week advantage where they've just been coasting.
Well, that's what they did
not
last
fair.
year. Last year was the same
Yeah.
thing. They had a 4-week advantage.
Yeah, it's not fair.
And that's how
fair.
they're keeping them in the game. So now the should we talk about the party before we could talk about what happened today?
Sure.
Apparently insanity happened in the house.
It's
It was Ian's birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whose birthday? Ian's birthday?
Was it? Yeah, no, Will's birthday, wasn't it?
Will's birthday, yeah.
Yeah.
And they started playing Spin the Bottle,
Amazing.
and Danielle and Shane started making out. A lot. Who else made out? No one, I think.
Ashley did. Ashley made it with Frank.
Ashley made out with Frank, okay.
2 girls made out too.
I don't remember who.
Ashley and Jen, I think.
Probably. Okay.
Ashley
That
was
makes-
kissing a lot of people.
Yeah, Ashley. They all got loaded. Everybody got loaded. Danielle now loses her shit afterwards because Shane wasn't kissing her back the way she wanted him to kiss him.
Overanalyzed.
And she was overanalyzed, like, maybe I'm a bad kisser. Maybe why doesn't he like me? All this stuff happening. Brittany's trying to calm her down because she's loaded. Everybody's loaded. Will and Ian get naked, and they start, one skinny dips and the other one starts streaking in the house. Everybody's loaded. Yeah, with the cowboy hat covering his junk. So it was insane. They're probably going to air this next week on the show.
I think it's crazy, too, is like they had so much alcohol, and then they realized that they were getting completely wasted, and then they gave them more alcohol to continue it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, they just want something to happen.
Yeah, because they ran out at one point, I think.
Right.
And Big Brother supplied them with more alcohol because it was Will's birthday. But I know they wanted them to just lose their minds.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to add some spice into it. We also got to see Dr. Will.
That's right.
Dr. Will comes in and gives his 2 cents on this season.
What'd he say?
He says that that Ian is being underestimated, that he's actually a really great player, and that he sees Boogie and Ian teaming up because he thinks that Boogie is just a 40-year-old version of Ian.
Really? That's interesting. Wow. Very interesting.
And that a lot of people may think that they have nothing in common, but they're pretty much the same person. So I thought that was interesting. He also says that Brittany's not doing a good job.
Yeah, she has no control.
She doesn't.
She doesn't have any control over her people. And that was pretty much all that Will said. That, and he says that 2001 called Boogie and wants his clothes back.
Oh, that's funny. So now it leads up to today.
Well, let me give you my Will quote.
Go.
Will's quote about JoJo was, "We're lucky that JoJo isn't here anymore because instead of everyone kissing each other, she would have gone around and give everyone head."
No.
So there's something going on.
Explicit and pretty much a very hateful thing to say about someone.
Yes. Well, there's something definitely happened.
Yeah.
Something definitely happened between the two of them because that hatred doesn't come around like that.
Yeah.
Just from
it's cattiness.
No, it's deeper than that. There's something like revengeful about Will with that because he calls her a hypocrite.
Yep.
And he also says the garbage men, he threw the trash out and he's just waiting for the garbage men to pick him up now. Talking about JoJo as she left.
Wow. So something happened there.
Yeah.
I'm really
If anybody
curious why.
knows, if anybody's watched the feed enough to have figured out what had happened between Will and JoJo, I want to know.
POV, I guess they're picking, the replacement nominee. Mm-hmm. And Shane picks Frank. Backdoor's Frank.
Everyone.
Everyone.
Well, the people who were...
Gasp. Everybody's gasping at this point.
It was... I was sitting here. This happened I'm saying hours ago. I was sitting here, had my iPad ready to go, and I could not keep my eyes away from it. I'm watching both sides. I'm watching the side with Frank and Boogie and Ian. And Ian thinks it's all his fault because supposedly Brittany had asked him about who he was going to vote for, and he was wishy-washy on his vote. Then I'm watching the other side where they're up in the POV and they're like, "Yeah, Shane, you're the man. You did it. You were the one to do it, and you're making the big moves." I don't know. There's still, what do we got? We got 3 days to go for this, and it's basically going to come down to Danielle's vote. Does Shane have control over Danielle or not?
Well, I think she does. He does at this point, but
not unless he pisses her
off.
Right.
So pretty much everybody wants Frank out because he's a strong player.
But he's never done anything. That's what I don't get. Just because he's big.
Yeah, he's big. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything. I mean, Shane, I think, is a better competitor than Frank.
Do you think who has the votes? Who's voting for Frank?
Well, we got Ian and Jen, so there's that too. Then on the other side, we've got Will and Ashley. So then, isn't there only Danielle's the only other vote?
Unless they turn around and they say the coaches are now voting as well.
Yeah.
Right. Then it's
a whole new game.
Well, then it's on Dan, I would assume, whoever Dan would side with.
Right.
And Dan would side with his team.
But he was just talking to Boogie, and Boogie's like, "You need to side with us. You need to get Danielle to be on our side." And he's like, "Oh yeah, totally." But who knows what he's thinking? And we don't even know if Danielle's going to even listen to what Dan's saying now.
Yeah. But so now the coaches are competing next week. So Thursday they're going to compete.
We don't know,
but
that's my guess.
I think it has to be. I think Thursday we have to see an endurance competition. I think there's no way it has to be that. So if you think about that, and let's say coaches are in, I think you got to look at Ian as going to be a huge competitor in that. And then if that happens, you've got another power switch. I think this move was great for us viewers because it's created drama now. People didn't know it was coming. You're going to see people really take sides in. This POV, I mean, this head of house was going to be the biggest one of the season.
Yeah, because if you look at it, Frank would be out theoretically if he gets evicted. Shane's not competing,
right?
So it's up in the air.
Yeah,
those are the two big ones. So who could win in endurance? I mean, if you're putting in the veteran Janelle,
no, she's never been good at endurance.
Oh yeah, no, she never won the endurances.
I think Ian is a strong competitor. I could see Ian doing it.
Yeah, but he's weak.
And Dan.
He's weak.
Dan
can win endurance.
I don't think that he's really weak in that aspect. I mean, when you're talking about endurance, it could be as simple as standing on a ledge. It could be as simple as keeping one leg in the air. It could be as simple as swinging on a swing. I don't think it takes much strength. It's really more about being able to stand, being there for long periods of time. We've watched Dan win endurance challenges in the past.
If we go based on the people in the house, I'm talking about the new players, not veterans. For example,
Ian.
There's Ian, Jen, Will, Ashley, Danielle.
No, I
Will could be. I don't
competing.
know.
No, I don't see Will doing it.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
You know,
I don't know why. I just don't.
I still sometimes get confused.
New players, yeah.
I still sometimes get confused between Ashley and Will.
They really do look exactly alike.
They do.
I think Janelle didn't realize that she was picking two of the same people. I think she just she picked Will and then she thought it was Will again. I really do.
So let's go based on the theory that Ian wins. Let's just go throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Who does he put up? Shane?
Who do we say went home? Frank goes home?
Frank goes home.
I would say Shane and Joe.
Shane and Joe. Shane wins, takes himself off.
Right, obviously.
Back to square one.
Yeah, Ian's not going to put Shane up because I think Ian's smart enough to know that Shane will win the veto.
That's true. You have to backdoor.
You have to backdoor Shane. So I think that Ian knows.
That's the only way Shane will go home.
Will go home.
Unless it's a major slip up somewhere and he gets out. But I don't see that happening. He doesn't. The competition that he lost, I was thinking which one he lost the first one, the first HOH because of his team.
Correct.
No, well, he didn't get it because of his team.
He would have won this POV, Ian.
Yeah, he would have.
Ian would have won this POV.
Yeah, the only reason why he lost was because Shane didn't check his answers. Shane just put it anywhere and just hit it, and he happened to win.
Oh, so he guessed.
He guessed. Yeah. But Ian was going to win, and the reason why Shane did that was because he knew Ian was going to win. Right. He only had a couple seconds, so he hit it. And then Boogie goes, Ian, make sure it's right. And he goes, I don't need to. I know it's right. And he hits the
I loved it.
What did you think? Josh, let me ask you, what did you think of last week's coaches competition when they all screwed up?
Ooh. I don't know what I thought about it. I never really thought about thinking about it.
Yeah, I actually thought that it was kind of interesting that one by one they all screwed up. And it was kind of given to Danielle. Given to Janelle.
What's so weird is that isn't this the second week in a row that Boogie has screwed up in a coaches competition too?
I think so.
Because that first one, I don't know what he was thinking with that. When he jumped off the balance beam, and hit the button. And you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, Ian said it during this challenge. You watched him, slow down a lot. He's an older guy. Right. So he's really not a young kid anymore. It doesn't matter. He lost he won the humping thing.
Yeah.
And then he lost the hips. The hip thing. He lost the hips, and then Dan lost the kissing thing.
If the coaches are in, right? Because we do this at the end of every show, Josh. We do our final four.
Ooh.
Now with the fact that the coaches are most probably, the odds are in that favor that they're entering the house. Who's in your final four? I go with Shane, Janelle, Brittany, and Ian. My final four is totally different now.
Wow. My turn?
Yeah, you go.
All right. I would say I'm right there. I think Shane and Janelle are going to form a bond. I think Ian and Boogie will form that bond.
You think Boogie will go far?
I really do. I mean, I've watched him in season 2. He only went halfway, and he was a great player in that season. And then in All Stars, he won, but that's only because I think Dr. Will sort of set it up for him to win. So I think he can go far again. But because one thing I've noticed on the feeds, he's been working out like for hours at a time. So I think he's like getting himself mentally and physically prepared.
Now the other question: what happens to these guys when they get POV, HOH? Because it seems like they all fall into the same trap. Shane has been slowly having a meltdown the last couple days, and he said some derogatory comments, and that'll most probably get him thrown off from America's favorite player, America's player. I mean, they're not going to vote for him after what he said.
Right.
So, what do you think causes this lapse in judgment midway through? Do you think it's the pressure of having that power? Do you think it's the pressure of not knowing the following week and it's almost over?
I think it's who these people really are, and I think eventually, after being in the house for so long, they forget the cameras are there. They're kind of like watching themselves, and then it's been so many days and weeks that they're in the Big Brother house that they just show their true colors. They forget that the cameras are there and they start showing it. What Shane says about Ian is probably Shane's real beliefs in life. Like he probably has that thought. He probably, just didn't voice it because.
Oh, you saw it. You read what happened.
You told me, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that it probably is just showing who Shane really is. And I think that Ian will always be America's player. He's that.
You think people like him that much?
I do. I think that Ian is like a lovable character. He's kind of like Dan. Saw or what's that other guy? The other nerd.
From which season?
All Day, baby, All Day. That guy?
The one that
who lied about his wife?
Oh, yeah. From last season.
Matt?
No, Matt from Big Brother 12.
He reminds me a lot of him.
But Matt wanted to be a heel in the worst way.
Yeah, that's true.
That was. Well, how about the other nerdy guy from Big Brother 11? What was his name? He was awful. He was part of that crew.
Brigade.
Not part of the brigade. No. In Big Brother 11, the nerdy guy.
We need pictures and names
of
all the
come
characters.
on.
I can't remember
Where's our
anybody's
memory
name.
wall? What kind of
can't.
show is this?
Yeah, I'm shutting down. My brain is shutting down with all the names at
I
this
have
point.
no idea.
But it seems like they've always made the nerdy guy the villain.
Yeah.
And this is the first season where they're kind of making him likable.
Yeah, I noticed CBS. I mean, for me, when I'm watching the feed,
it's totally
Ian is
different.
A totally different person than he is from what CBS shows him. CBS is really showing him off in a really good light. Like on the feeds, he's just that nerdy guy who's like strange and creepy. But then on CBS, they're making him out to be that lovable guy that you just want to hug.
It's interesting. I mean, the perception of these characters from the CBS show and the live feed, it's totally different.
Totally different.
I mean, you learn something like with they did it with Jeff also. Jeff was made for CBS. He was made into this clean-cut, guy from Chicago, this lovable guy. But on the feed, like, he was an MFer at points.
Oh my God, yeah.
He was
Dumbledore comments.
The Dumbledore comments, like he was. You could see the personality coming out on the feed, which is very interesting.
Right.
So, Josh, before we wrap up, do you think this is one of the better seasons? I think this is much better than last season and the season before.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's definitely up there. Last season was just, I almost was like, what? Why? I think I stopped watching it, actually. I don't even think I finished. I came back for the end. But yeah, I love that this season they played real hard, real fast. I think Willie was excellent for TV. Just, I wish he was on there longer.
Yes. I think it happened like 2 weeks too early.
I mean, when I was watching the feeds, that's when I was like really in, because I was like, I'm watching someone completely just crack.
Yeah.
And it was just the best TV ever.
But you know what was interesting? It was captivating. I mean, you saw him collapse within that like 10 hours. You saw him just shut down, and he went through every emotion. I mean, that 24-hour period, it was just like he had rage, and he was content with it and was okay. And Ronnie, that was it. Thank you so much. Ronnie was Big Brother 11.
Ronnie
and he was
rat.
an ass. He was an ass.
He was.
But you saw him explode. It was like Shima, but over a 24-hour period.
Yes, Shima.
But Shima's was very interesting because Shima's was almost like they gave this power to Jeff just to screw with her.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah,
And it was
Shima's breakdown still wins.
You think that's the best one?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And she throws the thing into
the
in a
water.
hot tub and her little microphone into the hot tub. Oh, so good. And then they tell her that she's gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just fantastic. Everything about it was so
Yeah,
good.
Shima's was really good. This one was insane too. But I think this season they kind of got it right. You know, they didn't have a twist that got screwed. 12, they had that they had Annie with that power. What was it? The
Coup d'etat?
not the coup d'etat.
No. She was the
America's Player?
No, she
No,
was
the
the
first week.
villain. Like she was the
Saboteur.
the saboteur.
Yes.
Yes, saboteur.
And she got home the first week, so that threw.
That was the best. That was you could just hear the head slap of CBS.
Yeah, and then they tried it again. It didn't work. And last season, you know, it was the vets that controlled the entire game, and it was destined for Rachel to win.
Yeah.
They even brought back Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. This season, it seems like it's a lot more thought out and a lot more planned. But would you put this up there in the top 5 seasons, Josh?
Ooh, of all 14?
Of all 14.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Right now, it's good. I would say top 10. I can't say yet till the whole season plays out.
What's your favorite season?
Oh, 8 is by far the best season.
Who won 8?
Evil Dick.
Evil D. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dick won
Oh.
8. Yeah.
I like 8, and then I would have to go 2 with Dr. Will because that season with Hardy and Nicole and everyone. I mean, the person who sits with Dr. Will at the end was the first one who everyone thought was going to go home in the first week, and she ended up making it. So I loved all those personalities.
Well,
So
yeah, no, 8 was by far one of the best.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
With Eric too. When Eric was America's Player too, he did that so well.
Yes. I loved Derek.
And then I had to go with 10. I have to go with 11 after
The
that.
111.
Jordan won 11.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was a
11.
great season.
Jeff
11
and
was a
Jordan
good
were
season.
good.
Yeah, Jeff. Have you guys watched the Jeff and Jordan
Yes.
to America?
Yeah, it's
We
actually
just watched it last week. We really enjoyed it. It's kind of felt like they kind of ended it too soon though because Jeff got hurt halfway through.
he
it.
broke his arm.
Right, but we really enjoyed it. I think they should get their own show.
Is that
actually.
why they ended it early?
It felt like it. It's like everything was going great, and then it was like Jeff left and Jordan did an episode on her own, and then it was like, okay, now we're back in California. If you look at the map, everything's like real close together, and then it's like, okay, we're in Arizona, now we're in California.
Yeah, I saw some of that. I didn't watch all of them, but it was pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how this season plans out. But it is time to wrap it up. I do want to tell everybody that we get all our information from onlinebigbrother.com. That's where we get all our news. If you want to check out the feeds, go use their link. You could subscribe for the feeds. It's well worth it, I'll tell you this. Josh does a great podcast. T4show.com records every Wednesday. It's live, right?
It is live. We're back live. It wasn't for a while. So, yeah, check us out there. You can talk to us in the chat room, or you can check us out on iTunes. You know the deal.
Culmination on Twitter. Jessica at Jessica Zarian on Twitter. Jess, I didn't ask you your final 4 now. With the vets.
I'm gonna go Willie, JoJo, Kara, Jody.
JoJo's out.
They're all out.
They're
I just
all
picked
out.
everybody
Oh, I
that was
didn't-
out.
That's it. I was like, wait a second.
No, I'm gonna go with the coaches in. We're doing with the coaches
Yeah,
in.
with the coaches.
I'm gonna say Brittany, Janelle, Ian, Shane.
Okay. I say Jen's going to go all the way. Jen all the way.
Jody's coming back. And
Jody's coming back. And you know what?
Yes.
Jody's America's Player. She's getting put back in.
Yes.
She's going to have the power of veto, saboteur,
And
coup
Lawan-
d'etat.
Oh.
And Lawan needs to come back too.
Yes.
Poor Lawan.
Oh,
Special power.
Lawan was excellent.
His special power is he comes back the following season.
That's actually, that would be brilliant.
Brilliant, right?
That would be so funny.
How great would that be?
That he's been in seclusion
He's like, I told you.
for a year.
He's been in sequester for a year.
Yeah.
It's called whatever.
Oh, it's
town he's living in.
so good. I love it.
All right, guys. Remember, go to our website, guysfromqueens.com. You can check out our show. It's on iTunes, on Zune, pretty much everywhere that podcasts are available. Subscribe. You could get it downloaded within 24 hours. It'll automatically download for you. Also, leave a comment for us on iTunes, and you can send your emails at guysfromqueens@gmail.com. And that's about it, guys. So we'll see you all next week on Big Brother Rewind. Good night, everybody.